Hey, everybody. It is Karen Hutton, for those of you who don't know my last name. And today I'm going live just in my own home. Today the theme is, if we're going to call any of these themes, it's Ask Me Anything. I am going to kind of wait for everybody to start to join in. So welcome. As you come in, I'm going to say, where are y'all coming from? I want to see I love seeing that part, love seeing where everybody's phoning in from. And so welcome to my Friday morning live for photographers. On a personal note today, I just want to, over the last let's see, I think I started actually publicly putting out a little request for France. Hello, France. I love France. Where in France? Curious. So I'm just saying hello to everybody coming in from all parts of the world. It's always really cool to see where you're all hailing from. But anyway, over the past couple of weeks, I put out a couple of stories, and I put it out in my newsletter as well. Paris. Hello, Paris. What a great city you live in. And I put out a request so I live in the Tahoe area, the Lake Tahoe area I'm in Nevada, so Lake Tahoe, spans part of California and it's part in Nevada. So we've had a huge wildfire here. It's been really scary. The air's been really bad. I literally was housebound for a month. South Lake Tahoe entirely was evacuated, as were some of the small towns around Tahoe. So I put out a request a couple weeks ago for prayers, for rain, for squelching the fire, for help on the, etheric levels and the quantum levels for this whole thing to be quelched. And I said, whether you do prayers or good vibes or imagine it or however you like to do it, please, we could use it. So our firefighters here are unbelievable. They're phenomenal, and it is one hell of a job in the mountains with a wildfire, with the kind of fire that means, with how dry everything is. So I want to thank you, because guess what happened today? It rained. It rained today. I live in the high desert now. I used to live up in the mountain. Now I'm in the high desert, and it hasn't rained in months, and we're having a drought, and that's part of what has made this fire so bad. So it rained today, and I'm going to post some pictures because I was so excited. It smelled so amazing, and the air is good, and we can breathe. I'm not housebound anymore. It's really phenomenal, and I think things are going to start to open up a little bit. Everything, the national forests, the wilderness areas, every single state park, every single public space around the lake all had to close, partly because of the smoke, but also because of the fire, period. So it's coming around. This morning I looked right before this live. It's 53% contained. It's not controlled, but it's contained. And it's kind of not growing exponentially anymore. So that's hugely, hugely good news. So I just thought I would share that with those of you who have so kindly reached out to see if I'm okay, to see if we're affected, and wish us well. And I've just been saying, just say prayers. And so thank you, because it works, because it's a quantum field thing. And it really works. So, and thanks to everyone who's reached out to see if I was okay, and I am. Thank God. So we're very fortunate, and people are beginning to move back into South Shore now, and so many people lost their homes. So the full repercussion of that has not been quite grokked yet, but so that's to come. But at least I don't think anyone up there lost their lives, but just their homes. That's a lot. Anyway, so your continued prayers are welcome, and so welcome to Friday Morning Live. And I know it's Friday afternoon somewhere, and some places it's even Saturday. So where are y'all coming from? Just pop your... I see Scotland is in the house. Paris, France is in the house. Where else are we today? Would love to know. So today's theme is Ask Me Anything. So you can pop it into the chat and I'll answer questions. But I'm also going to share some stuff based on questions that I do get a lot. I'm just coming off a long stretch of webinars and classes and Kelby One and Fujifilm. For those of you who we're just meeting for the first time, hello, my name is Karen. I am a Fujifilm professional ex-photographer, and so I'm going to talk gear a little bit today as well. And people always ask me which is my favorite camera and why and what lenses do I like and what do I use for this and that. So I thought I would just delve into that a bit today. And I always have my notes because I get in here and I start looking at where everybody's coming from and what they're saying, and then I get distracted. Okay, so yeah, the other thing I was going to tell you guys is my last public webinar was Wednesday. So now I'm just focusing on my own stuff. So I've got some really cool things upcoming. I've got a giveaway coming up, so keep your eyes peeled for that. It'll always, the cool things like that go out to my subscribers first. So if you want to be part of that world and get in on the giveaways and get in on the good stuff, and first pick and first hearing about things, just jump over, the link is in the bio, just jump over to my website and sign up. And you get 20% off your first print. Hey, there's that too. So there is that, and just, as a result of all these classes, people have been reaching out and thanking me and giving me the most amazing feedback on these classes I've been doing, and the webinars and the teaching, and it's been really nice. So thank you all of you who have done that as well. There's more to come. Kind of excited. You know how you hate to say, I'm going to do this, and then you don't do it. So I'm not going to tell you exactly what I'm doing, but what did I say that? And some other classes and things will be in the mix, as well as art stuff. My art installation at Cedar House. Last week we were at Cedar House Sport Hotel, so we just put in a big order for the last 2 buildings, and that'll be going in. So I'll bring you live there, and some other places. So let's move on then. Let's see. I have another question that came in before this. I'm deciding whether to talk about that first. But let's talk cameras. Okay, so one of the big questions, since teaching so much, I say teaching so much, webinars and whatever, and so usually my subject matter has to do with, because I'm a big believer in, because I live this too, in that, okay, so Ansel Adams said it best, right? The most important part of a camera is the 12 inches behind it. Ta-da! Your mind, right? And so what I happen to know is that where you are in here is going to completely affect what you get from this, because it's a quantum thing, right? So it's the thing where if you're really focusing on what you love and going for the awe, literally going for the awe, shooting what you're most passionate for. So the last webinar I did was all about storytelling. So we'll be talking more about that, in some of the teachings I'm going to do for you guys and for my stuff, my people. Even in the whole storytelling, the way that you use what you love and your intent and all this woo stuff. I'm very woo-woo. So, but it matters because it completely affects your results, because it's quantum, because you're dealing with, all right, so I've said this before, I say it again. I repeat these things a lot of times. You're like, I've heard you say this before. But one day you'll hear it in a whole new way and it'll change your life. It's just like how that works for me. So we're dealing with light and time. That is our medium in photography. So the thing they've learned, quantum physics has learned about working with light streams and light particle streams, is that they are completely affected by emotion, expectation, intent, feeling, thoughts, completely. This has now been known for quite some time, but I extracted that piece of information because it's really applicable to us as artists, as photographers, because if that's true, how does that affect your images? Just saying. So even though I'm going to talk about gear, there's a reason for that. I wanted to lay this out there first because the gear is not the first most important thing. So knowing that intent and feeling and emotion as an artist, we have the opportunity to lay it down into the pixels of our images in a way that nobody else can, because they don't work with light and time as their medium. Not to say that signature, which is what I just said, is how signature in your work and uniqueness and, you know, the stamp of who you are showing up in your images comes from all that. Not to say that the gear isn't important. It's just that the gear has to work in service of that. So I don't want to go too much more into it right now. I want to take that thought over here on this side, and then I'm going to answer the question I get asked a lot about, what's your favorite camera? I can't even tell you how often I get asked that. And so they don't ask me what my favorite brand is, because I shoot Fujifilm, and there's a reason, because for me, knowing what I just told you about, I use emotion and feeling and, you know, all this, you know, feedback. There's another saying, one of my favorites by Minor White. I'm going to paraphrase it, but what he said, Minor White, look him up. Minor, Minor White. He's from the 40s and 50s, I want to say. He's one of my photographic heroes. And the quote is, and I often use it when I'm teaching, is be still until the subject of your attention. It's not, he doesn't use the word verify, but verifies you. So in other words, it's not you going for it. It's you see something and you find that moment that gives you that, oh, there it is. It reveals itself to you and it says yes to you. And then you photograph it. It's a feeling. You go for the feeling. You go for the goosebumps. You go for the gasp. So given that I do that, I want a camera that helps me do that, that gives me cool ideas about doing that, that makes, when I do that, easy to capture that without having to go all of a sudden right brain, which is why I don't like to menu dive. So Fujifilm, so I had shot other, you know, camera systems and so on and so forth, and what I determined is it messes me up a lot if I have to menu dive too much. And I love Fujifilm because I can, you know, for one thing, externally, it's ergonomically, it's good for me, and then I can do all my shortcuts on the buttons and so on and so forth. But also the colors, the tones, just all the sensibilities of the actual product is exactly, it aligns exactly with my vision of what I want. So, so when I started, let's see, I'm just trying to decide what order. So keep that in mind, as I say, when people ask me what's my favorite camera, it's like, well, that depends on what I'm doing. If I'm traveling, hiking a lot, you know, hiking a long distance, you know, having to worry about weight carrying and so on and so forth, I will take my X-T3, which I love, and my favorite lens I have on here, although actually I just realized I have my ND filter ring on here. I use LaCroix filters, so my ring is on here right now. But anyway, so the one lens when I travel that I make sure I always take is the 18 to 135 because of the range, because I don't have to change lenses a lot with it. It just is so versatile. So the X-T3, and then people always say, well, what is this? That's my L plate. I can say, easy for me to say. And then I usually pull the side out so I can use it as a handle because it's handy. Handy. And so therefore, when, you know, weight is more of an issue, travel, need to just compress a little bit, and then people will say, well, that's not the smallest camera. And I'm like, that's not my point. My point is this is the smaller of the two cameras that I use that will give me the results that work with my vision, which I want to form in a quantum way through light and time onto the pixels of my camera. So this is the one. Any questions you have, you're welcome to pop in. So those of you who have just joined, this is a Ask Me Anything day, but if you don't have questions, that's fine. I'm just gonna share the answer to one of the questions that I get a lot and have had a lot lately. as I've taught, is what my favorite camera is. And I actually wrote this to my subscribers a couple weeks ago in a little more detail about why and how. So the other thing, so the X-T3 is an APS-C sensor. So it's a little bit smaller, but the quality of the image, I believe it's due to the microns, but I'm not going to get into the whole technical debate, is phenomenal. Yes, I can print big. Yes, I have printed big. Yes, the images are gorgeous. And it's a great camera. I really love it, and even still. Plus, it has the 100 to 400 lens, so when I'm shooting wildlife or my wild horses that I do here, I use that camera and that lens. When I'm doing my personal work and I'm building a portfolio of a few new lines of work that are bigger, I use my large format GFX 100S, which I'll show you the size, difference, similarity. Same sort of thing, the L bracket. This one is a really right stuff L bracket. This one is a small rig L bracket. So I set them up the same, so I have a handle. It's just handy. Anyway, so the reason I use this large format, medium format, people call it, like, we're always like, do we call it large format? Do we call it medium format? So I'm starting to now just call it more than full frame because that's an easier way to think of it, more than full frame. So when those times where I always had the dream of shooting larger format, medium format, you name it, because it's just different. It just looks different. I liken it to, it's not, you get more detail, you get more, and by detail, I don't mean that it's necessary. It is, they're all sharp. I mean, it's not a matter of it being sharp. The detail are the micro details that make things start to seem 3D-ish. They're not really 3D, but it gives a little more sense of depth. But it's also that this format camera does a thing with the planar, the planes. So like this image behind me, there's planes. There's the tracks, and there's the trees, and there's the farther back. And each of those depths kind of look like a plane, right? So natively, the GFX for me provides that kind of depth and that planar separation that makes it almost look 3D, and it's really gasp worthy on a computer. And having done some really big printing, I can do really big printing with the X-T3. It's just a little bit easier with the GFX, and that they can go much bigger, easier. So, but it's the quality and the particular. So it's a very particular thing that I like to see in my work, because I have this vision of it that this fulfills. So this is my personal work camera. Right now I've got a 120 macro lens on it. The reason for that is I don't know why. For some reason, I have been asked to teach macro. I have been, so like I did a class earlier this year for Calby 1, macro photography. I have been doing Fujifilm projects, and I'm always asked, the way we do it with Fujifilm is we get a project, we can accept it or not. I always accept them because it's really fun. I love projects. But mine have all been, and so we get assigned a camera and a lens. Mine have all been the 120, except for one project, which was the 100 to 200. But mostly it's the macro. And it's so versatile that I usually end up shooting a lot of macro. Really, it's incredible as a macro lens, but it's also a good mid distance lens, super sharp, good for landscape and all kinds of things. So this lens has pretty much been glued on my camera most of the year so far. And I'm going to do got another project coming up with this camera, and guess which lens? This lens. One more next month, which I'll be talking more about when it gets a little closer. So yeah, so for the particular thing I have in mind for my personal work, this is the GFX. Now people say, how much bigger is it than the X-T3? It is somewhat bigger. Of course, I got these two L brackets on here. I know that's a little hard to tell, but understandable that X-T3 on this side, GFX on this side. They're Yeah, this is a little heavier. So, but it's also medium format, large format, more than full format, more than full frame. I haven't decided what I'm going to call it yet. It's just amazing. So those are my two cameras. And then depending on the project, depending on what the vision is, depending on what I want to see, my thing is, what do I want to see? What do I need to see? What do I crave seeing? Then that'll be the lens that I use. So welcome aboard, everybody. Hey, everybody pop in. Where are you calling from? You like that? Callers. It's like I'm on a radio show or something. So where is everyone hailing from? I've seen, so far we've got Paris, France that I've seen. We've got Scotland in the house. We've got a comment. I think with macro, it shows off your inner soul as it can be so intimately personal. It's true. And you know what else? That actually brings to mind something really interesting. Cameron from Scotland. Beautiful Minneapolis. Yay! Hey! How's Minneapolis? How are the pups? This is great. We've got friends in the house. We've got people we've been in France together, on retreats in the house. Anyway, macro does show off your inner soul and can be so intimately personal, which is true. And you know what happens once you have that experience is that you can then take that feeling and that sensibility and you can apply it to the other lenses. So it'll teach you how to do that no matter what lens you pick up. So it's a nice way to get that feeling and kind of get that idea and then carry it over. I like that too. Randallstown, Maryland. Yay! Knoxville, Tennessee. I've never been to Knoxville. I've been to Tennessee a lot. Back in my horse training days, I had a client in Memphis. I used to go out 7 times a year and teach her and train her horse. And it was amazing. Loved that part of the world. I have friends there. Sometimes I think of moving there. I always think of moving places. Hey, here's a question for you, y'all. If you could move anywhere in the world, where would it be? And why? Okay, at least where will it be? I know some of you don't want to type in why. But anyway, so this is, what was I going to say? And I totally lost my train of thought. Hey, Karen, Seattle, Washington. Hello, Seattle. Yeah, so today, so here's the other question that I've had recently. Aside from the cameras and aside from the lenses and the gear, which by the way, again, if you have any questions, hit me, because I'll keep this short. I don't want to keep you here for a full hour if we don't have tons of questions, but most of the ones I'm answering today are ones that I either get asked a lot, got asked in the last couple days, or early this morning before we came live, because I did put it out that if someone couldn't be in this live, to just go ahead and send me the question. But one of them was, so Karen, Smug Mug and art storefronts, what's the deal? And a lot of people write and ask me, they see me on the art storefronts advertising and they say, is this for real? And it's like, yeah, it's for real. So here's my quick take on the difference between the two. So I've had a couple of really good email exchanges with people who are trying to decide and kind of like, how do I think about this? So I have both, and I need both. I personally think at a certain point, I think really from the get-go, you have to sort of think about what you want, what you're going for. It's just like buying a camera or choosing a lens, right? It's, well, what do you want to do? Like, what's the goal? And if you just want to show images and, you just want to display them, want to show them to friends and family, whatever, maybe that's Smug Mug, maybe the free account, maybe something simple like that. And then for me though, art storefronts is a storefront. It's my storefront. I don't share it. It's not a platform where I share it with a bunch of other artists. It's my own storefront. It's my own platform. And it has all the tools for selling fine art and selling merchandise that I could need online. And it's designed specifically for that. And I wanted a platform that was designed specifically for that. For me personally, Smug Mug, my images look incredible there. They always have. I've always loved Smug Mug. I've been with Smug Mug for 10, 12 years, maybe more. I don't know. Still love them. Will probably never leave because what I do with Smug Mug is I work with my clients. So I have, like I say, I'm just finishing a big art installation up in Truckee, California. And we've been working through images and collections of images and setting them up so that we can, see how they're all working together. And so Smug Mug is designed to make that easy. And I've been in had my face in Smug Mug now for weeks. For my client-based work, wedding photographers, anybody who's doing portrait work, whatever. It's an incredible platform for that. It's an incredible platform for a lot of things. And yes, you can sell prints. Personally, I think the best way to sell prints on Smug Mug is, like if you're a photographer and you, wedding photographer, event photographer, portrait photographer, and you want to make those prints available in addition to the package that you're offering, you want to make them available to people, who are in the wedding party or whatever. Boom, there you go. Ready-made, you can sell them. It's super easy peasy. ASF, on the other hand, for me, is my broader fine art online store. So this is where it makes it easy to sell prints and to show how a print will look. Like they have the tools that enable me to see how or my clients and me, I can show it to them or they can see it themselves, how it's going to look on the wall. Or if you don't want to do the whole live preview, you can do because they have look at it in a room. They got a room, like here's just a standard living room. You can change the colors of the wall, change this, change that, and see with the size of the print and kind of how it'll interact with certain size furniture and so on and so forth. Those tools are invaluable when you're trying to show people when you can't be there in person. Yes, so yes, Cameron, you're right. And thanks, Cameron. Hi. Yeah, he's just saying the same thing here. It allows the option for the buyer to virtually see the artwork in their own home or other place. So that's super, super helpful, especially when you can't be there, with the actual print and show them on the wall or tape it off. Even taping off sometimes, because you can do that. You could get, like blue painter's tape and tape off the size print you want, kind of stand back and see. But this is nice because you can just hold your phone up. So those tools are invaluable. Plus I can combine the merchandise that I want to sell and so on and so forth. And it just makes it really easy for people to buy. And there's a lot of other features as an artist that make it easy to have an online store. So you see, they're very different platforms to me. So you have to sort of decide what you want to focus on. In my case, I need both. I don't even want to just have one. I want a separate place to work with clients than I do working with the fine art, and that works for me. So I've been answering that question a lot lately, so I just thought I would share that with you all. My phone keeps wanting to shut off. So, what else can I tell you? Any other questions before I perhaps keep this short for today? Because, sometimes shorter is better. I'm trying to think of what some of the other questions I've gotten lately are, and other business that I have coming up. Like I say, I'm going to be you're not going to see me. I don't have a lot of upcoming events on my website right now because I just finished my last one. In fact, I think I have to take that off my website. And I'm going to be sharing as I go along, as I develop and dig into the book that I'm working on to the courses that I will probably be doing and my road trip that's coming up. I've just got to kind of take a breath and go, because I just finished a big round of a lot of output. Now it's like reforming and getting in there, and which is why I'm a little bit like, hi, how you doing? Okay, so you guys are very quiet today, which is fine. So if there's no other questions and no other, one other question I have for you. Favorite lens. What's your favorite lens? Do you have a favorite lens? I get asked that a lot too, and I never know what to say. I'm curious to know if you can you answer that question? If somebody asks you what your favorite lens is, do you have one? I have a really hard time, because for me, as soon as somebody asks me that question, I'm like, well, it depends on what I'm doing. Because how I see is all about, like, the purpose for what I see. My perspective is all about 70 to 200. Okay, so now this is me cheating, because I know the person who said this. So when you're shooting, that's for when you're photographing dogs, right? Throw your website in here too, so people can go check out your work. 70 to 200 is your favorite, and I'm betting it's because you're working with doggies and you need that range. 135, 1.8. Wow, really? Okay, so what do you shoot mostly with a 135, 1.8? Curious. Yes, wide open. Yep. There you go. Oh yeah, because then you get that depth of field, because it's 2.8, right? 70 to 200. Because you shoot Canon, I think. So while I'm waiting for those answers to come in, so here's another question. Yay, you were in authoring landscapes. I really liked that webinar. Okay, you were interested to know how, wait a minute, what now? You were interested to know how I got my selfie into a composition to tell my story, as you look genuinely part of it, as that is one thing. Okay, so in this last, I'll just give a little background. So in this last webinar that I did, in storytelling, I was giving a basic, like 5 things you need to remember when you're telling a story visually. And then if you can, manage those things, then here's a couple other things you might try as well. One of them being black and white, and the other is, if you're like, usually I'm talking to landscape photographers, so I'll say, do a selfie where you are, because proof of life, right? Because for years people would say, these are great photos, but you're not in any of them. Were you actually there? So I've started doing, not all the time, but I'll do selfies, so that proof. Concerts and people at 135, I guess you can always be a certain distance. I know I'm jumping around. I'm just talking to the person whose favorite lens is a 135, 1.8. I can totally see why you would use that. As a landscape photographer, I'm always in with a zoom, because I can't always get where I want to get, so I have to have the zoom. Anyway, so how did I get my selfie into a composition to tell my story? So first of all, technically, I put my camera on a tripod and I do self-timer. And then I frame it up ahead of time. I go, wow, this would look really cool here. And I'm also usually thinking of, like, what is it about here, wherever I happen to be, that, like, if somebody saw it, it would kind of tell the whole story, or the DNA. So I have this thing I always say, what's the DNA? Meaning, what is the most clear slice of where you're photographing that tells the whole story? And that could be macro, it could be wide angle, it could be mid, whatever. But when I'm doing a selfie, it's usually me in the scope of where I am, with the impact of why I love it. So, like, there was a picture of me in an arch in Alabama Hills, California, because there's this arch, because it's a kind of a desert, stony area. So this arch is really famous, and I was like, it's kind of a gimme, kind of a gimme shot. So I did a picture of me in the arch, because proof of life. Set it on a timer, scramble up, boom, do a couple poses. I actually use interval. Since Cameron, you just got your new XS10, there's interval shooting. You can set it up for like every second, every 2 seconds, whatever, for however many photos you want to take, and then do a bunch of different poses. But just make sure that it's in a frame that is, in my case, I always want it to be beautiful, but because I'm out in landscape, but wherever you are, that it bespeaks of what it is you love about where you are. I hope that answers your question. That I haven't done before as a story. Unclear what that means. Okay, so we have 70 to 200 is one of the favorite cameras, and pausephoto.com. So like a lot of times people want to know about lenses because they want to get an idea. So, and also here's your chance to share your website, any of you who want to share your website with other people so they can go check out your work or your Instagram, either one or both. But basically, so you love your 70 to 200 because you shoot doggies, but you use it wide open so that you get the best depth of field, and it's just really, really effective. Pawsphoto.com, P-A-W-S, photo.com is her website. So we're doing a little sharing. So we had the 135 1.8 as a favorite concert and people lens, and that's jtaylorphotography.com. That's in the chat. And like I say, anybody can mention their Instagram if they want to. Hey Karen, cool to have you back. It's cool to be back. Thank you. That's very nice. Is this going to be? Yes, it has been a regular Friday thing for a couple of months, 2-3 months now. I've been doing them at 11 a.m. I know that's not ideal for everyone because it's kind of in the middle of a work day that we might think about doing them later. My problem is later is when, if I'm going to go out and photograph, that's when I'm going to go. And live doesn't always work out there. So I don't know. We're having discussions about what the best time is for this. But right now it's Friday mornings at 11. And we have these, sometimes I have friends on and we're talking about a certain thing. Sometimes I'm on talking about a certain thing. But yeah, we're kind of doing the hangout. So we have this, I'm referring to everybody by their lens because it's just easier. So we have our 70 to 200 favorite lens, 70 to 200 because she photographs dogs. She gave her website, www.pawsphoto.com. Reason she loves the lens, I'm a background bokeh junkie. Dogs in the woods with the blurry, creamy, dreamy trees and streaming light. 2 thumbs up to that. Yeah, it makes my heart sing. And that's the right answer. Singing, heart singing should be what determines your setting. What makes you go, oh, that sense of awe should drive your settings, not, let me get the settings right. Yes, we have to get settings right. I'm not minimalizing getting your settings right, but getting your priorities straight for your settings is really important. So those of you who have just joined, today is Ask Me Anything. I've been answering a couple questions, mostly that came in earlier, and I'm also asking, so I have finished answering those questions, which had to do with my favorite camera, the difference between Smug Mug and art storefronts, and which do I like and why. And then I was thanking everyone for the amazing feedback about a bunch of other things I've done lately. So I'm asking all of you who want to pitch in what your favorite lens is and why. See, because I get asked this all the time, and it's a tough question because I always want to say, as I shoot so many different things, I don't just shoot one genre. And so even the camera, the favorite camera thing of, is it the XT3 or is it the GFX? Well, it depends on what I'm doing and where I'm going and what I want and what I'm looking for. So I'm kind of turning the question back around and asking you, what's your favorite lens and why? And I know it's hard to type it in there, but it's one way to have an interesting conversation about this because I think it's fascinating, especially since I'm one who usually gets asked all these questions and then go, well, that all depends. So I'm just checking to see if I've missed any other questions. Cameron, did I answer your question properly? I'm not 100% sure. Okay. Alrighty. So, I see some of you are just joining. Where are you coming from? Where are you today? I'm going to be wrapping this up in a few minutes if we don't have more questions. It sounds like a threat. It's really not. Not at all. We don't always have to go for the full hour. Today, I'm just sort of like catching